how, this is half our group, our other half will come up, but how to organize, and we really stuck with SWOT and pulled into secondary and elementary groups because we had a bigger group to try to wrap around what we were seeing in each of the levels in hopefully a lot of the buildings, and then broke it down with the SWOT analysis and then tried to show some specific examples of positive things that we're seeing in the feedback reporting section within the building, so hopefully people could gain some ideas and bring them back to your building. So that's the angle we took with this presentation.
So in terms of strengths at the secondary level, one of the things we thought is that the document itself is a very clear roadmap to improvement. It's fairly easy to understand, and we like that. We also thought in terms of implementation that giving timely and effective feedback, higher quality feedback, is becoming more the norm in our schools. We thought that, we like to see that. And we also felt that cumulative grading is being used more than it has been by the end of the semester. In terms of weaknesses, this is a little bit of a repeat from something the last group said, so I think that's noteworthy, that we noticed in the document itself there really isn't a lot of discussion or work on some of the engagement pieces in terms of how the students feel about the school. There really isn't a lot of mention about that in the document. Things like, and some ideas that we came up with is things like newsletters, social media, using Blackboard, using Google Docs amongst the faculty, and so those pieces seem to be missing. In terms of implementation, student-led conferences are still not the norm at the high school level, and we also noted that many parents lack the information or the skill to access a lot of the data that we have for them, and yet that's not really something that's addressed well in the document either, and not in practice in our buildings. In terms of opportunities, we felt like we have a lot of, we're right on the cusp of really doing some great work with culturally responsive practices and increasing student and family engagement. Again, that seems to be a recurring theme carrying over from the last group that talked. And when we talk about threats, one of the things that we felt is a threat is that our system seems to perpetuate a culture that schools are the only ones responsible for proactively monitoring student progress. And while certainly that is a very important function of schools, we need to change the culture of parents need to also have some, feel some urgency to stay informed of what's going on with their students and using the tools that we provide. And if we continue to perpetuate a culture where if you don't get it from us, that we're the only ones responsible to provide information, that's dangerous, we think. So that's why we identified that as a threat. Moving on to practice, some examples of how different elements of the document are being implemented. These are just highlights, taking a specific piece and then showing an example. One example is trend grading. eAchieve Academy is really kind of leading the way in terms of trend grading in the district. And here's one of our eAchieve teachers explaining how it works in eAchieve.
This is a quick look at how trend grading is done at eAchieve Academy. Trend grading is a process of reporting the true achievement of a student for an educational learning target. The final score for that target is determined by the instructor and not electronically calculated. Here are 4 assessment scores for a target. You can see the student showed advanced mastery by the 4th assessment. We would trend this as a 4 since the student ultimately demonstrated that mastery. Of course, in reality, more assessments are needed to show whether the mastery level is maintained. In these examples, you can see how the instructor has trended the scores for this target and the rationale for those trend scores. It must be emphasized that it is the professional judgment of the instructor that determines the trend of the scores.
So, I should have paused on that last slide. Let me see if I can get back. So these are just some scenarios, and one of the things we've been working on at eAchieve is the last couple of faculty meetings we've been throwing up a couple of scenarios and just doing some calibration activities in terms of if this was a target and these were the assessments along the semester and the score that the student earned on each of those assessments, what would you give the student as a final grade for that target at the end of the semester? So we've been doing these calibration activities. The middle one there, that's 444s and then incompletes at the end, ends up as an incomplete because we just don't have enough, there wasn't consistent evidence at the end. We don't know if things progressively got more difficult. We couldn't determine a score. The second from the bottom one there actually showed a decline in the skills as the semester progressed, and that's what we would report at the end. The last one showed fairly good mastery, but it wasn't consistent in terms of 4s all the way across, so in the end they would be assigned a 3 because there wasn't a consistent advanced demonstration of skills. All right, I'm done. Who's next?
Tom. Okay. Okay. This I hope this isn't too elementary for us, but what I put together was how I have my grade book set up in a fine arts class to demonstrate how standard score has been used for timely feedback, at least in what I've been doing here. Today we're going to talk about assessment. Before I go on, let's see if I can make it bigger. And this originally was 7 minutes long, and I was told that was too long, so this is the edited version, so every now and then you'll see fast forward. But I think that original video would be valuable to new staff, and we're going to try and make it available to them. Today we're going to talk about assessment inquiry these days. It's no longer good just to show up, behave, and get an A in class. We're grading to standards, benchmarks, and learning targets. I'd like to show you how we give students feedback in our classes. Right? We'll start here with this student named Rachel Ajak. And I'm going to say that I listened to her. We had recordings. We had singing tests, and I walk around the room. I have oral assessment on my own that I can do by observation, and I know that she's singing real well in tune, and she has a great sound. So she got 2 4s this week. All right, let's just take this student for example. I hear that when she sings high, she sings a little flat or under the pitch, but she has a great sound. So we have that kind of grade this week for her in choir. And I can put a comment in that says, when singing high, a little flat. That's the part that's the timely feedback. I'll let it talk. And I've actually had kids come in the next day after they see that grade and they go, really, I sing a little flat? And I'm like, yes, and we discuss ways to fix that intonation problem, and it leads to good dialogue between myself and the student and giving them feedback. And I can quickly go down the class, say this kid was just really, really out of tune, and this is all make-believe, by the way, so it's not a confidentiality issue. And I can go through and continue to make comments if I need to, and continue to grade to the learning target. Now, we're going to look at the other side so you can see what it looks like for kids. I'm going to put a little comment.
Yeah, it says your desk.
Yeah.
This I thought would be interesting because very few of us get to see what it looks like from the student view. And so, since I have a couple of kids at West, I thought that I'd share that with you and what they see and how we have to train them to use WebGrader.
And the login was her. Oh, she's doing good. Doing well. Sorry, English people. Getting some nice grades in class. Some points required. And in the beginning of the year, I teach kids how to use WebGrader's interface so they can get the most out of their feedback. That's key.
I can't say that enough. We really have to teach them how to use WebGrader at the secondary level. Because a lot of times, like for example, my daughter will just pull up this screen and go, oh, doing fine, good, gone. And you have, and at least as long as we're still using WebGrader, we have to dig a little deeper.
Now, two places you have to look in WebGrader.
Cumbersome.
In technical skill, or in standards report, she can see that for week 7 rehearsal, under the learning target of intonation, she received a 4. And week 7, technical tone quality, she received a 4. Here's one of those kind of putsy things about WebGrader. If we want to see the comments, we have to go to detail, and we can see her very awesome comment right here. Okay? And that's where the kids would see the comment about, maybe range or something very particular to them. And it's just a nice way to give feedback.
That's pretty much where it ends. But I know that with several of our, I guess I'd go with mostly from that clicker response we did. I think we're pretty much at B right now, where the majority of the staff, and at least in the music department, I'm pretty sure, is that the secondary is grading in the same way.
And then for this next piece, it has to do with competency diplomas. Am I clicking here?
You gotta exit out.
Escape.
Escape. And then next slide.
Go one more.
One more.
Through the competency diploma and through working with local businesses and people who are hiring students with the employability piece of it, with focusing in general on collaboration and communication. So our teachers are constantly within small groups giving a lot of verbal feedback on specific targeted skills so they can move on. So I just have 2 little pieces here.
To demonstrate employability skills such as teamwork, collaboration, creativity, and problem solving, students were given 15 minutes, newspaper, and masking tape to create a shelter that their team can fit in, all without talking to each other.
The competency program is a program for severely credit deficient high school seniors. They need to prove that they have mastered the competencies that are required by the state of Wisconsin for all high school seniors. In the program we have a lot of flexibility in how we can go about having them provide that information to us. We can accommodate a lot of different learning styles, a lot of different content areas, and incorporate many different evaluation tools to determine exactly what the mastery level is. They can do it in written form, they can do it verbally, they can do it as a presentation to the class. It really is up to them to choose how they're going to demonstrate the mastery of the topic that was covered in class. A lot of flexibility and a lot of personalization.
So through that process, there's constant feedback with the student and where they are in their long-range plan for the year so they can continue to demonstrate proficiency in each of the areas with the teacher. And at this time, I'd like my elementary friends to join me so we can continue on.
Circa 1976.
discussions and data collection that we participated in with our colleagues, talking about feedback was something people could do pretty well. We have a couple slides that I'll show you, and then we'll talk.
Thank you, Johnny Jacob. Okay, here's the treat. Here's a little lady's making her second appearance on the Gong Show, all the way from London, England. Your favorite, and hers. Ducky, get it.
On the shelf, lollipop, it's nice. Your candy shop, where the bonbons play. On a sunny beach, you never must say.
Now, what would have happened if she got a little feedback?
Thought I saw a man brought to life. He was warm, he came around like he was dignified. He showed me what it was to cry. There's nothing where he used to lie. This conversation has run dry. And that's what's going on. And nothing's gone
A little different in terms of quantifying feedback. When we discuss feedback with our colleagues, yes, I give feedback, yeah, I give it right away. I give it so the kids can change their performance. I give it so the kids learn from the feedback. But I think something that the Vision of Excellence doesn't have is some descriptors of terms like feedback or quantifying characteristics to see what's good feedback. Sure, you could say you do it, yes, we meet the Vision of Excellence goal, but do we do it appropriately? Do we do it timely enough? Do we do it when it's most needed?
This is how.
Sorry.
And we are missing the heading on this slide. But that's okay. That will make Just continue with the body of the slide. According to collected research from multiple subjects, the investigative team reviewed numerous sources of data, which was compiled using the Gray's Anatomy technique. Furthermore,
Susan, can I give you some feedback? I'm kind of noticing with the other videos that they were really smiling, and I'm not seeing a lot of smiling faces. Do you think maybe you could include some videos and to get those smiles back on their faces?
I appreciate the feedback. Immediate feedback. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And I plan to make some changes for my next presentation.
Thanks, Jamie. And coincidentally, I have a video. So we surveyed the elementary schools and with the 12 schools that responded. We asked them the question, does your school have student-led conferences? And these were the results that we got. We are going to be sending out, we have a few hard copies of a handout, and we'll be sending out the data piece of this that's sort of boring to present, but that needs to be known and looked at. So you can see that we do have quite a few schools are doing student-led conferences, but we still have a ways to go. And we have an example of one. This is from Summit View with a first grader. There's the student and there's his mother. This was a little contrived. This is not our normal conference time, so it looks a little more scripted than it normally would, but it's a good example.
I want to share with you some of my mathematician notes. New words I learned during science experiments and a map I made of my bedroom. My calendar will end with writing a goal for me to work on for the end of the year. First, I want to tell you what I learned about shapes. This triangle is not a triangle because it's not closed. And this square because it is closed. And the defining attributes are. It told you like what shape, even though you don't tell them like the name of the shape. And then the non-defining attribute, size, color, and orientation. So you would say, I want a shape really big, the colors and its orientation's up. Then you wouldn't know what shape it is. But if you tell I want with a shape with 4 sides, 4 corners, and it's closed.
The hardest part was deciding where to cut that clip, because the defining attributes part, there was stuff like that all the way through it. Nobody wanted to cut it. The next step we have student goal setting, and if we want our kids to get to a place where they're setting their own goals and driving their own learning, we really need to give them lots of opportunities for goal setting. And in that same survey that Terry was talking about, we asked them, does your school do student goal setting? And we probably could have been a little more specific in getting, what kind of goal setting we were talking about, because I think we do all kinds of things, from looking at map data and only setting it when we do our map testing, or doing it by the unit, or setting goals by target. There's all kinds of goal setting going on. But what we found was 50% of the schools, the elementary schools that replied back, said that between 51 and 100% of their classrooms participate in goal setting. And you can see the other data there. And this is another video where we wanted to show you some students doing goal setting. The first is a 4th grade classroom, and they were looking at the report card, and they're taking the grades on the report card and they're doing goal setting with this sheet. And then it moves into another clip that is the 2nd grade classroom, and this 2nd grade classroom starts their readers workshop every day. Part of their routine is they go get their literacy bins, and inside their readers notebooks there's a little pocket in the front where they pull out their goal, whatever their current goal is. So part of their routine is they grab their bins. So you're going to see a lot of activity. They grab their bins, they go to their spots, and they take out their goal, and they whisper it to themselves. Some days they whisper it to a partner, and the teacher asks 4 or 5 kids aloud, what's your reading goal for today? So that's what you'll see, and it's just very short. Oh, you guys, I didn't need to do that. Okay, up here.
Are you always showing her high levels of work? What do you think with the 2s there?
Yeah, sometimes and sometimes.
Sometimes and sometimes not. That's exactly what the 2 or basic means. So if we take a look at your goal sheet, here's a spot for your name. I would like you to set a goal for the 2nd trimester. Here's Matt.
Series book, every day. That's an excellent goal. What's yours, Bryce? Reread before putting back. Use pictures to figure out words.
Slide. We'd like to say that today we highlighted student goal setting and student-led conferences. We have other details regarding communication, feedback, and reporting. We decided not to put you through 8 or 9 more slides. See, I can learn, Jamie, where'd you go? And instead, we'll provide this in a handout, a hard copy format if you prefer, and we'll share a copy of this with Google Drive.
I want you to enjoy this for a minute. I think you can see from how important the right kind of feedback and communication is, because that is not us as educators. And in closing, as you saw from the gong show and from other ways of doing it, we as educators have a very important job, and that is to give the feedback that is immediate and positive, but yet honest to all of our students. And that job certainly is being done well in Waukesha. So thank you.